Tesla Model 3 unveil, new Amazon Echo devices, and VR devices have started shipping. That's what I like. Hello and welcome back to another episode of That's What I Like, the pretty much weekly video series where I talk about all the things I find in the tech, science, and fun world that I like. To start things off, as I mentioned in the intro, Tesla has officially unveiled the Model 3 as of late last night. I sat up and watched the unveil event. It's going to be $35,000 as they said. It's a sedan. It looks kind of like a hatchback, but it's not exactly. They say it's got room in it for 5 passengers comfortably, 5 adult passengers, but all of the reviews I've read so far from other tech sites are saying that, well, it's more like 4 adults and a smaller person, a child perhaps. But still, it's got a 200+ mile range, 5-star ratings in everything possible. It just looks like an amazing car. It's just a pity that it won't be here until the end of next year. Nevertheless, I did go ahead and plunk down $1,000 because I want one. Next story is amusing because a year ago today's April 1st, Amazon unveiled the dash button. Seemed like a really silly concept. That's why people thought it was an April Fool's joke. Basically just a quick button, you press it and it automatically reorders things for you on Amazon. That's it. I actually have one of them here. I haven't even opened it yet. There are so many cool things you can do with these. Basically, it's $5 for the button, and then you get $5 off your first order with it, so I'll probably use it to order some Ziploc baggies, because that's the one that we picked up, and then repurpose it and use it for something else. You can have a button where you press it and it lights up a light, or you press it and it sends a message, press it and it makes a sound, whatever else. It just ties into a web server on the back end. Loads of fun things to be done with this. Let me know if you want to see a video about this, and if you have any suggestions for what I should do with it, let me know. But the reason I mentioned that, Amazon rolled out 100 more Amazon Dash buttons as of now. So things like Doritos and Red Bull, Energizer batteries, Starbucks, not something I could entirely see using all of the time, but I've got 2 kids, so as the kids grow up, I can definitely see, oh no, we're out of insert thing here, tap a button and here it comes. So very cool to see them expanding this program. Amazon was also in the news because they rolled out on GitHub some code showing you how you can make your very own Echo device using a Raspberry Pi. So essentially you take a Raspberry Pi, 2 or 3 recommended, but it should also work with the first models. You pair it up with a bunch of peripherals like a mic and a speaker, keyboard and mouse, and it's still a push button object. You can't actually say Alexa blah blah blah. You have to touch the button on the interface to make it work. Maybe that's where something like this could come in. But if you did want to make one of your very own, if you didn't want to pay for it and you have all of these parts laying around, that's awesome. If you don't have all these laying around and you don't want to make it all yourself, Amazon, like I said, did roll out some new devices this week. I went ahead and did a video about this already. If you'd like to see it, you can find it on the channel, maybe a link down below. But this is the Amazon Echo Dot. I've used it for about a day now, loving it. They've also got the Amazon Echo Tap. I could not justify that one myself because it's a portable Bluetooth speaker that you have to press the button to actually talk to Alexa. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to use Google Now and whatever Bluetooth speaker I want. But for 89 bucks to have this little teeny thing I can put by my bed and has a 3.5mm out that I can put out to a decent stereo speaker, yeah, I'm good with that. Moving right along though, I just happened to realize that I have this little guy sitting beside me. Video on this coming out tomorrow. If you have not seen it already, if it's out by this time, check on the channel. It'll probably be the next video in line. Yoda is so much fun. Razer, company behind a lot of gaming products, has officially come out with their very own live streaming capture card. Up to this point, if you've been using a capture card, it's probably Hauppauge, Blackmagic, or Elgato. The problem with the grand majority of those is there is definitely some lag, some latency to them. So Razer's put out one that supposedly has no latency, no lag, meant to be used for live streaming, but also for game captures, and whatever else you want to use it for. It does 1080p 60, and it comes in at 180 bucks, and requires a pretty decently powerful machine to run. But it's USB 3, so you're not going to have to open your machine to use it, and it does support HDMI, obviously. So if you're a gamer looking to get into the live streaming game thing, this might be a good option for you. I've got the Elgato HD60, and I absolutely love it. I think I paid $120 for it. To have one that doesn't have that latency in it, that would be nice. The first official Ubuntu tablet, the Aquaris M10, is now available for pre-order. There's 2 different versions of it, a full HD and a quad HD. So if you've been waiting to get your hands on Ubuntu on a tablet, you can definitely do that now. DJI has a new slightly updated drone, the Inspire 1 Raw Edition, which comes with a Zenmuse X5R 4K Micro Four Thirds sensor. It should be shipping now. It says it starts shipping March 28th. Realistically, it looks like exactly the same DJI Inspire 1 with slightly different camera on it. I want that camera for my DJI Osmo, but the drone itself actually retails for 6,000 bucks. So if you're in the commercial drone photography / cinematography realm, this might be up your alley. There were a bunch of stories about different games coming out for different virtual platforms, so I thought I would lump all those together. There's one called Adrift that is a space simulator kind of thing for the HTC Vive. There's one called Eve Valkyrie for the Oculus Rift, another space game that they say looks like Top Gun in space. There's one for Oculus called Farlands. It's like a VR alien world simulator. Very interestingly, there's a Star Trek Holodeck themed game in Steam VR, which realistically, looking at the HTC Vive, all the loading zone, the place where you go when they're loading up the apps, That kind of reminded me of the Holodeck anyway, so it'll probably be interesting to see it when it is available, when I do have my Vive. Speaking of these things showing up though, the Oculus Rift has started shipping as of this week, so if you pre-ordered it, be on the lookout for shipping notifications. But the very first one was actually hand-delivered to Alaska by the founder of Oculus, going to a guy named Ross Martin in Anchorage, Alaska. And from the box, it looked like they signed it and everything. iFixit took a stab at the Oculus Rift, they got their hands on it, and they took it all apart, and they say it's actually pretty easy to repair. I'll be curious to see what they say about the Vive. I haven't seen anything come out about that yet. Microsoft had their Build conference this week, and of course, to go along with that, the HoloLens for developers has started shipping. Still a really high price tag on that one. I'm kind of curious if it's ever going to reach consumer pricing level at least. But there were a bunch of other stories related to the HoloLens, so let's lump those together as well. They introduced something called Holoportation, which says it creates living memories with 3D teleportation. There were a couple of stories that kind of mingled together there, basically saying that they've created an app for the HoloLens that allows you to communicate with other people, and it makes it look like they're 3D holograms in the space with you, whatever size you want them to be, which is very cool futuristic stuff, although you've got a giant headset on. There's an app called Galaxy Explorer for the HoloLens, and it's open source on GitHub, so if you want to see how this works, or maybe get started building your own apps for HoloLens, you can head on over to GitHub and pick up the source for that. As I was mentioning with the Holoportation stuff just a minute ago with communication using the HoloLens, Skype added in support for HoloLens. I'm just kind of curious to see how that's going to work, because when Google rolled out Google Glass, one of the big things they touted about it was being able to do Hangouts video and voice from Google Glass, but it didn't quite work out all that way. So I'm really curious to see if HoloLens does it that way, or if you're going to have to like stand in front of a mirror to let the other person see you. Either way, the whole prospect of having these wireless connected devices that take you into another place, but also augment the reality that you're seeing, it's so cool to me. Google has unveiled what they're calling VR View for developers, which allows you to create and embed VR content into the web, as well as an official Cardboard SDK for iOS. So iPhone developers can actually start taking advantage of some of this stuff. By the time you see this video, it may be too late, but the NCAA has come out and said that they're going to be streaming the Final Four of NCAA basketball, the Final Four and the championship game all in VR. Again, it's going to be happening over this weekend, so you might not even be worried about it. It might already be long since over by then. But I'll have a link to the story if you want to check it out and see if it's available where you are. And to wrap things up, just a couple of little bits of fun. There's a story on Techno Buffalo called Unicorns Were Real, Last Walked the Earth 29,000 years ago. Apparently, there was something that looks akin to a woolly mammoth that had a gigantic horn that lived as little as 29,000 years ago, but as much more beyond that, called the Siberian Unicorn or Elasmotherium sibericum. Yep. So kind of cool to know that that may have been a thing that existed, but not quite the magical nature that you might anticipate. And the last thing to mention, I am such a big fan of older cartoons. Netflix is going to be rolling out Voltron starting on June 10th. They've got a whole Voltron series. It's a new series, and from the little bit of a look at it over on Gizmodo, it looks awesome. So make sure to check that out. Now we'll have links to everything I talked about down in the description if you're interested in it. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching this series. Thank you for supporting the channel. So many videos in the works, so many videos coming out. I've got like 4 scheduled at the moment for the next few days, so be on the lookout for all of that. Make sure to check out my video on the Echo Dot if you haven't seen it already, as well as all the other ones I've put out in the last week, because there's been a lot. Remember to leave a like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and we'll see you again next time.